Good evening and happy Halloween. Welcome to Under the Hood. This is episode 18. I'm your host, Eli Karp, also editor-in-chief of Throw the Flag Sports. We've got three panelists with me here tonight. We have Rock the Barn, who looks somewhat deranged, Erik, and Spentano, who is donning his controversial choice of top, I should say. It's shocking enough that you actually have a real jersey on and it's not a jersey shirt. So
I know.
even though it's an Ezekiel Elliott jersey, I will cut you some slack and give you credit that it is not a jersey shirt. So that being said, let's get right into the NFL. And big news today, lots of trade, or not a ton of trades, but trade deadline is tomorrow. I don't know exactly what time, probably sometime in the afternoon when nothing is going on. And that is the Jamie Collins trade. The star linebacker for the Patriots traded to the Browns for a third-round pick. A little bit, mind-boggling on the surface, but at this point in time, we should all kind of trust the Patriots that any other team makes this deal, we think they're absolutely crazy. When the Patriots make this deal, we think they're geniuses. So let me hand it over to Erik, who is our resident Patriots fan, and get his take.
Well, at first, looking a third-round pick for a top 10, maybe 5 linebacker in the league, it's a bit mind-boggling. It's a compensatory third, too, so it's going to be later. But the more I think about it, the more I don't hate it as much because Collins, at the end of the year, he's going to be up. He was asking for Von Miller-type money. Like, he was asking for 6 years, 114. He turned down an $11 million a year for I think 6, which with contract bonuses would have gotten it to 80. And there's some stuff coming out like he did something to really tick Bill off. But the whole thing with this one is usually like when he lets defensive stars go, or any stars go for that matter, usually at the end of their primes. Like for example, Revis, that was his last good year 2 years ago. But Collins has maybe just jumped into his prime, maybe next year, but this one, not a huge fan of.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. Of course, everyone's like Jamie Collins to the Browns. Like there are all the memes out there this afternoon. Like you go to bed up 7-1, and you wake up and oh look, you're 0-8. But who knows? Based on the way things have been going in Cleveland, you just don't know. And for any viewers who are watching at the moment, we just had one, but right now we're sitting on a goose egg. We are taking questions today. As usual, we love taking your questions through the box and answering them. It gives us something to ad-lib, and unfortunately, Danimal and his following are not available tonight. Got to get their last season of trick-or-treating in, so we don't have the mob. But nevertheless, if you're watching, shoot him at us. All right, so now that Jamie Collins trade is out of the way, I think at this point, even though I'm not a Patriots fan, I have to say I think they know what they're doing. I can't. Jamie Collins, sure, I'd love to have him as a Giants fan. I'm sure any team would love to have him. But, he's entering his prime. And, again, money, money, money. And the Patriots, the only people that are safe on that team, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And, of course, Bill Belichick is the de facto GM. So, there it is. Anyone else want to comment on the situation? Spentano.
Yeah, even if you're getting a third-round pick, you would be getting a compensatory pick anyway if he left in free agency. And it just doesn't make sense to me because they're clear-cut Super Bowl favorites. And this just kind of seems like for the future move. But it just makes no sense because they're getting one anyway, even if he leaves in free agency, but might as well use him this year. And, Brady's 39, and he's showing no signs of slowing down, but you don't know. Next year, he just 40-year-old could get injured. But the time is now for the Patriots to win Belichick and Brady's 5th ring, and trading Collins just doesn't make any sense.
Cannot agree more.
Does Spentano know something that Bill Belichick doesn't? By the way, Spentano, I like the hat. 2 first names. I like it. All right. Let's talk about, we just finished week 8, so we're pretty much, obviously, week 8.5. That's the halfway through the 17-week NFL season, but we're pretty much halfway through. we have Oakland surprising a lot of people. Some people, they thought they'd be good, but 6-2, they're looking like they're in good shape. Dallas clearly surprising people. New England, not really surprising people. And I think it's safe to say, I mentioned it last week, that the AFC West was probably the most competitive and best division in football. And I stand by that statement this week. I couldn't agree with myself more. The Chargers are probably the best 3-5 team in the league. Denver doesn't really need an offense. Kansas City is just a solid football team. And Oakland has climbed out of the depths. They have exited the dumpster, and they've found their way up to some clean air, even in that horrendous stadium of theirs, however long they happen to be in Oakland. So that's my take on the AFC West. Anyone want to comment on the teams I've listed, the surprises, or any other teams that have brought things to mind? Erik, someone besides the Patriots.
No, the biggest surprise to me of the year was the Eagles, because I don't think anyone gave them a chance to at least make the playoffs, let alone win the division. But Wentz has shown very good signs going for the future and right now. That who's predicted this from their defense, a top 5 or 10 defense in the league?
Yeah, and you're setting me up perfectly. One, as Jim Schwartz, he's going to get a lot of head coaching speculation and offers towards the end of the season and into the offseason. Wouldn't be surprised if he moves, but I think he's probably best suited as just a purely defensive coordinator who's doing a great job. They have a solid front seven. I think their linebacker play is decent at least, and their secondary is pretty decent. So they're a recipe for success. And that brings me perfectly into this huge Week 9 matchup, this NFC East battle between the Eagles and the Giants. This is the Eagles' second big battle in a row in the division. Both teams are at 4-3, and this game is going to go a long way in determining. I wouldn't say who wins the division, because unless Dallas, pulls a Dallas and manages to falter down the stretch, this is likely a big wild card spot matchup. Both, that 4-3. The Eagles are, they've been up and down. They've shown the ability to be really good, and they almost beat Dallas last night. It was just kind of a late game collapse, and the Giants haven't been pretty at all this season, but they've managed to find a winning record. And they're at home. They're coming off the bye week. Often teams coming off the bye week have looked a little slow. Even the Cowboys did for the majority of last night's game. So it's just a really huge, important matchup, battle between, Eli, the 35-year-old quarterback, and Carson Wentz, who surprised people at, 21 or 22. So the Eagles have a very good front seven. Is the Giant front line going to be able to block them? The Giants can be able to get 20 yards on the ground in this game. It's a lot of questions. So I'll open up the floor again to talk about any teams. Spentano, are you with us? I lost you on the visual.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, yeah. My camera's on, but I'll try to fix it. Sorry.
Rock the barn. I'm going to head over to you.
The team, I think it's pretty surprising to most people, is definitely the Jacksonville Jaguars. They seem to have all the assets on offense. Blake Bortles had a great year last year. Allen Robinson, Hearns, and what supposedly should have been a good running game this year with Chris Ivory and T.J. Yeldon. But they're 2-5, and they're just not playing well on either sides of the ball.
Yeah, and I think after they fired this offensive coordinator, I forget his name, but every report seems to kind of have it that no, Gus Bradley is not being fired yet, but unless something really remarkable happens, he's probably going to be gone by year's end, and that they're kind of charting out the path that Doug Marrone is kind of going to take over towards the end of the season or at the end of the season. That's what the reports have it. It's just really unfortunate. The defense honestly hasn't been awful. It really hasn't. They've been average. The offense has just been abysmal. It's been painful to watch. Allen Robinson has become he who must not be named. I just can't express my distaste for Allen Robinson over the first 8 weeks of this season. It is unbelievable how disappointed I am in this man. So, there's my 2 cents on the Jaguars. Spentano.
Do you have my camera back?
No, but we can
All
hear
right.
you.
All right. Yeah, the Jags. Like, I think that first half. I mean, the score ended up being like 36-22, I think, Thursday night. But
Yep.
the first half was 27-0 Titans, if I remember correctly. And that just proved that Gus Bradley should no longer be the coach. He doesn't even have the players. The Titans aren't that good of a team where they'd go up 27-0 so dominant. So the Jags they're not even really playing for him. They're just out there playing. Like, they would be a lot more motivated if they wanted him to be their coach. Kind of like how Rex Ryan started 0-2, the rumor mill started firing up, and then the Bills won 4 straight. It's just Gus Bradley does not have this team at all.
And then the Bills have dropped 2 straight. Again, if you're watching, please submit your questions. We want to hear from you guys. We're more than happy to answer it. You can even start a dialogue, and that's pretty cool because, technology. So please submit your questions. Rock the barn.
I think the NFL said it pretty perfectly on the Jets too. A team that I'm really, really pretty sad about this year. They're just not looking good at all on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. But the NFL called them double bubble. They look good, but they disappear pretty quickly, and just no offense whatsoever, no defense. I mean, they're almost lost to the Browns, who are 0-8. It doesn't look good for the Jets whatsoever.
2 teams I can't figure out. Still, Detroit. And to add to that list, Houston. I can't really figure them out. I don't exactly know where they are. Detroit, it's tough. Like, they've shown to be really good, and they've shown that they can be poor. And I think that that's kind of the mark of an average team, that they play to their competition. So we'll see where they are towards the end of the year. I think they could make some noise. They could compete for a wild card. The NFC wild card will be interesting because Arizona right now, not looking good. Not for them, at least, unless they can turn it around. We thought that at least the Packers and one of the NFC West teams would, take those 2 wild cards. And it certainly looks like the Packers, they could, although they're 4-3 at the moment. So, again, it's a lot of jockeying. We're only halfway through the season. I'm not going to make too many assumptions yet. But that's that. So, we've also had an incredible amount of ties. Like, where has this come from? We had 1 last week, which was improbable, 1 this week, which was improbable again, and we've just had so many missed kicks. It's unbelievable for all of the money that these kickers make. And I'm a fan of kickers. I think it's a tough job that they have. Just the amount of failures that they've been having recently that have cost their teams the game. You look at Hauschka and Canzero, some good field goal kickers, and Dustin Hopkins, yeah, he's good, and he misses one, not even close. So it's just mind-boggling. And Sebastian Janikowski, one of the best kickers, specifically from long range, missed 2 for Oakland that they could have won. They ended up winning, but they could have won it in regulation or the beginning of overtime, I believe. It's just crazy. I believe we just lost.
Yeah, he said he got kicked out.
Yeah.
All right, so we will get back on that, and he's back, so no worries there. Yeah, so that's what I want to say about kickers. Anyone else have a feeling about kickers? Even Stephen Gostkowski hasn't been quite the same this year, Eric. It remains to be seen how the Giant kicking game will shape out. Spentano, Dan Bailey's been good.
Dan Bailey has we might not be the record we're at without Dan Bailey. It's good to have an actual reliable kicker, and he's just pretty automatic. I think he missed 1 extra point this year, but besides that, he hasn't missed.
It is unbelievable. It's one of those things where, they say in general in life, you don't realize how much you appreciate something until you don't have it anymore, and that could not be any more true with a reliable kicker. Rock the Barn seems to be having some technical difficulties. I'm sure he'll get back sometime. All right, so with that, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We finished our NFL segment, and we're going to move on briefly to the NHL, just talk about a few teams. Obviously, we're about 2 weeks in. Let's start with Erik.
No, the Bruins this year, they went out to a pretty good start. 3-1 the first start of the season, lost 3 straight, and then won Saturday. There have been some bright points. Backus, their new addition from St. Louis, looks very, very good. Physicality, getting some goals in there. Pasternak, the young player from, I think, Czech Republic, in his 3rd season, he looks very good too. And their rookie defenseman, Brandon Carlo, who's playing with Chara, he's been a very good bright spot. But the defense as a whole, still not very good. With Rask and the backup out for a little bit, we have to call up Malcolm Subban from Providence and then Zane, I don't even remember, McIntyre. But they just had no defense besides the other night when they lost to the Rangers. It was absolutely deplorable.
Yeah, interesting. A very timely term this time of year. Rock the barn.
We're talking about hockey, right? I'm sorry, it cut off.
Yes, we are.
All right, I'm sorry. The Montreal Canadiens look so good again to start this year off. 8-0-1 with a win Friday against the Maple Leafs 2-1. They overall are just looking great, and their defense is playing amazing with Shea Weber instead of PK Subban. And I think it's all comes down to Carey Price. When Carey Price is net, that whole team feels confident and they feel ready to play. When he's out, they just don't look the same. And you could completely see it last year as they just fell apart after the beginning of the season when Carey Price got hurt. But right now, once again, they went 9-0 last year to start the year. And right now they're 8-0 with a loss in overtime. And I think it all comes down to Carey Price. And he's just such a good goalie.
He really is, and I'm sure that when he's back, Michel Therrien is saying, "Wait," because Carey Price is winning games for them, and it's just an unbelievable confidence booster. I have to say, there are 2 teams that I'm focusing on, and I'll spare you guys on the first one, and of course the Rangers. They've been pretty good to open up. Long story short, offense has been good, defense has been but they've been in every game they've played. Now, Detroit Red Wings, last few years it's been, they've made the playoffs like 21 years straight or something.
25.
25, but in the last few years it's been nothing more than a formality. It's been make the playoffs, extend the streak, first round exit. And, the offense has been, okay, but, their stars are getting old. Zetterberg and who else is, obviously Datsuk left this season, but you've got Tatar now, who's younger. You've got Dylan Larkin. Larkin is huge, and now this team is producing. They've won like 6 or 7 in a row. Thomas Vanek's been good. He's out right now, but he's been pretty good. This team, they're forced to be reckoned with. They have a 2-headed goalie monster in Peter Mrazek and Jimmy Howard. So when one's not great, the other's there to step in. And the system just keeps going. Jeff Blashill, this is his 2nd year, but it's just the culture they've built there. I think they're, we'll take a look a couple months from now, but watch out for this team. I think they're bound for a little more than the first round of the playoffs. Spentano?
Yeah, to add on the Red Wings, it's kind of like the Spurs of basketball or the Patriots of football, who are just consistently have been there in the 20th century or the 21st century, my bad. And kind of the Yankees in baseball, they took a step down this year, but they're always consistently there. Those are kind of the 4 teams that just from each Big 4 sport. But currently, got to go with the Islanders. They're looking pretty good so far. They just beat the Maple Leafs 5-1. And Tavares, he's looking good. So is Grice.
All right. There's our hockey insider, Bob McKenzie. Sorry, Spentano. And yes, interesting on the Islanders. Yaroslav Halak, I guess his agent, openly declaring it's stupid for the Islanders to carry 3 goalies, and now it looks like Halak is on the trading block. Yes, no rhyme intended, but it's an interesting situation out there in Brooklyn. Rock the barn.
I know my favorite team, but I completely disagree. They are not looking like the same team they were last year. They are not consistent whatsoever. They can't win them more than 2 games without falling apart. They're just not the same team as last year. Halak, like you said, is not the same. They're relying on Grace right now, who played great in the playoffs. The defense is playing well, but the defense, I think, has more points than almost all the offensive players. People like Andrew Ladd, the 2 people that they picked up that were supposed to be really good this year, have not scored. Jason Chimera and Andrew Ladd have not scored a goal, and every single defenseman has scored at least 1 goal. It's not good for the Islanders when the 2 guys that you trusted getting this year in the offseason are not producing points.
There you have it, and there you'll have our NHL segment. Finally, let's go quick rapid fire to the Cubs force a Game 7. Spentano.
I mean, to the Cubs force or to the MLB force it? Because I think the MLB is desperate for a Game 7. Their rating, there used to be like America's pastime, but their ratings have been just, well, they haven't been going down, but in comparison to other sports like, say, football and basketball, they're all on the rise, and baseball's kind of flatlining. But I think that they're going to need this Game 7. Cubs, Indians, which drought will end. Tons of people will be tuning in. It'll be kind of like Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which I believe the NBA also very much wanted and needed. So that's my take.
The Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. All right. So I will say on this topics of the ratings, my cousin, who happens to be coined the ratings guru by some, actually tweeted out that the overnight ratings for Game 5 of the World Series beat out Sunday Night Football by 32%. So that's pretty big, especially since it was a pretty darn important and big Sunday night game, and a 3-1 deficit for Chicago. It was good for the MLB last night, and it got picked up by a lot of people on Twitter. So a little shout out to my cousin, Erik.
I think they do force one because the Indians getting it back home till 5 a.m. today because their plane broke down. So I think they'll be a little jet lagged. But now, do you know what the pitching matchups are for tomorrow?
I think Arrieta's pitching.
It's Arrieta versus who's the other dude?
Would it be not Bauer?
It's not Bauer.
Not Kluber.
It's not.
Anyway,
Who's the other guy?
is it Tomlin?
I think it might be Tomlin.
Spentano, quick question.
So, anyway,
Did the MLB break down the Indians plane?
I think it's conspiracy theory. You don't know. Who's the commissioner of the MLB? I don't even know.
Rob Manfred.
He's not controversial enough like Goodell or David Stern.
No one is.
So he doesn't. I don't know his name.
All right, Erik, continue.
what was my point? Oh yeah, so Arrieta, he's ended last season phenomenally, started this one phenomenally, has tailed down a little bit, but I think he's ready for the big game moment. I think it's gonna go Game 7.
Rock the barn.
Yeah, I hate to agree with everybody, but I think the Cubs are going to do it. And Josh Tomlin's pitching, by the way, for the Indians.
I think that the Cubs, they've gotten one more game under their belt. They can show they can extend the series. Now they're not as pressured at home. But one also huge thing, Kyle Schwarber is back in the lineup as a DH. I know it's small sample size. I think he's going to get him over the top. And hopefully we get to see Game 7 because that would be special. With that being said, that's going to end our show for tonight. Thank you for watching. Along with myself, I'd like to thank Rock the Barn, Erik, and Spentano. I'm Eli Karp, and good night.